We now have 2 episodes of Dragon Ball Daima, which is one more episode than the number of wishes that Goma and Degasu managed to get out of Shenron. This episode, titled Glorio, starts off with some new information about the Dragon Balls, and I'm not really sure whether or not this is actually consistent with the series. I'm sure somebody's gone and looked it up by now. It turns out that Shenron will only grant you 3 wishes if you have called on him before, not for first-timers. I've seen a few people online say this is a very Toriyama gag, and I agree with that. But, I don't know. I feel like they could have done this kind of a gag by maybe him just saying, you look weird, I'm not granting you 3 wishes. Or maybe he could have just dropped the classic SpongeBob, I don't feel like it excuse. Consistency aside, this is something I've really come to appreciate about the way that Toriyama writes his stuff. It's that he doesn't care what the established lore already is. If he thinks something will be funny, or he can improve on a previous idea, even if it doesn't make sense with what's already established, he'll just change it. He's not so attached to works that he's done in the past that he couldn't just figure like, hey, this sounds better, let's do it this way instead. Anyway, Shenron grants the wish and gets out of there, which causes Goma to immediately start asking Neva if he can bring the Dragon Balls back with his technique and then just undo the cooldown period again. But he's like, nope, even I can't do that often. I guess we gotta give him some credit for realizing that this is a very, very cheap maneuver to get around the cooldown time for the Dragon Balls, and they had to tell people like, okay, he can't just do this over and over again. There are limitations to these abilities. So now they're trying to come up with a way to salvage the plan, and they decide the best way to do this is to just kidnap Dende, who's also a baby now, and take him back with them to the demon realm. There's an interesting moment here though, where Goma weighs whether he should kill Dende or not, and then just not have to worry about the Earth's Dragon Balls anymore. And Neva the Namek actually says, yeah, you're right, it wouldn't be a problem for you anymore if you did that. He doesn't even try to stop him or anything. Goma ultimately decides not to kill Dende and to just hold him as a hostage instead. That way they can maybe negotiate with Goku and company if they need to. So off this trio goes, they've got Dende in hand, they're taking him back to the demon world, and we get taken back to Capsule Corp to see how everyone is reacting to now being little kids again. Krillin actually says something pretty interesting here, and I'm wondering if this might be important to the plot later on. He's listening to Bulma talk about how much younger they've become and how much cuter they all are, how much their skin is softer now and everything. And he seems to note that everyone seems to still be who they were before the wish. So it's more like they've just been transformed into childlike forms as opposed to having their ages actually reversed. I'm guessing the logic here is that if Goku had actually been made into his younger self, then he wouldn't have access to all of the techniques and transformations that he does as an adult, because Kid Goku couldn't go Super Saiyan. So to get around that, they've made it to where Shenron's wish just morphed their bodies into kid bodies instead of actually changing their real ages. That seems like it's very much in that same line of thought for a Toriyama gag, just like Shenron being like, no, I'm only gonna give you 3 wishes if you've summoned me before, sorry. Like, that seems to be very much a similar style joke. Anyway, we go to Goku, who's having trouble flying. It seems like this new body has messed with his ability to control his ki. There's even a bit of a gag where after they get to the lookout to see what's going on, and they just find that Dende's gone, only Mr. Popo is there, Goku almost flies off of the lookout and falls down to the earth below, and Piccolo's like, you need to get used to this new body of yours. And Goku's like, well, are you used to yours yet? And Piccolo tries to fly to feel like, yeah, I figured it out, and he just flies right into a tree. So it's very gag heavy. This show is definitely leaning into the Dragon Ball vibes more and more. So Shen now knows his brother is involved with all of this, and Piccolo seems to know who Neva the Namek is. But it turns out that they can't just teleport to the demon world. There's a very specific way that you have to get there. Then we have a bit of good news and bad news. Turns out Shin actually does have a spaceship that's capable of traveling to the Demon Realm. The bad news is that Goku and Kid Buu's fight in the realm of the Kais heavily damaged it, so it doesn't work anymore. Luckily, Goku isn't quite as stupid as he sometimes appears to be, and he comes up with a brilliant idea. Go get Bulma and let her fix the ship. It's so sad to think about how Bulma has really fallen in this series as a whole, and you want to see her involved in the story as a key character more and more, and you just never get it. This whole series started out as just Goku and Bulma tagging together, with her being the brains of the operation and Goku being the brawn. And not to skip to the end, but the end credits of the show suggest that Bulma is going with them to the Demon Realm, so she will be important to the story, and that's very nice to see. Kibito teleports down and brings Bulma and Vegeta back. Bulma looks over the ship and is like, okay, I think I can fix this. Kibito, go back down to Capsule Corp and bring all of my equipment and some helper robots, please. Now, the very first thought I had was, why don't you just get him to teleport the ship to Capsule Corp and fix it there, because all your stuff's there. And the joke pays off later where Bulma actually says, you know what, Kibito, I think it would have been easier if you'd have just brought the ship to my place instead. And Kibito's like, yeah, I'm not your errand boy. Meanwhile, while all that's going on, Goku's still struggling to get used to this new body. And again, we get to see Goku be a little more clever as he comes up with an answer to his problem. So he goes to visit Korin to try to retrieve his Nyoibo again. We haven't seen him use that in a very, very long time. Of course, as it turns out, Korin doesn't have it because nobody's needed the Nyoibo to go to Kami's lookout because everyone learned how to fly. And as you might expect from the tone of the show being so comedic, it's Master Roshi who actually has the Nyoibo, and he's using it to hang his wet clothes out to dry in the sunlight. As soon as Goku gets back to the lookout with it, he pulls out and he's like, hey, you guys want to see something cool? And he starts doing all these really cool looking moves. Animation looks great too, but I don't think Piccolo and Vegeta cared that much. They just like, whatever. Now there is an interesting little moment here where Piccolo is asked if he remembers anything about the Demon World, but he's like, no, I wasn't born when the Demon World was around, but I've heard a little bit about it. And there's an interesting new distinction here. They're not referring to them collectively as Namekians anymore, as in to suggest these are people from planet Namek, and that's where they originate from. Now it's more just they're Nameks. So like they're a specific type of demon. But that doesn't last long because a spaceship that looks very similar to the one that Goma and Degasu arrived on Earth in is coming straight for them. However, this time, it's Glorio, the guy who this episode is titled after, showing up right at the very end of the episode. And he's very straightforward about why he's there. The king of the third demon world has asked him to come and retrieve Goku to defeat Goma and Degasu. That raises some red flags for the Supreme Kai right away, because here's this guy coming out of nowhere and he seems to already be aware of the situation that just happened. And these are all under the orders of a demon king we haven't met yet, so there may be some power plays going on down there that could make this thing get really ugly really quick. Bulma decides to check out Glorio's ship and learns a few things about it that will help her repair the Supreme Kai's ship faster and get them down into the demon world a little bit quicker than their estimated 10 days as she had previously stated. However, it seems that Glorio is going to take the Supreme Kai and Goku with him right away, and then the rest of them will meet up as soon as the other ship is ready. I think this is a good way to handle this because this will allow Goku to go down to the Demon Realm and experience it close to by himself. Glorio and the Supreme Kai are there because it's logical for them to be going, and they'll need to explain how everything works to Goku and to us. So if the goal is to try to let this be as new to Goku as possible, and therefore new to us as possible, they've got to tell everybody else to wait and come later. Then Goku, Glorio, and the Supreme Kai all get into Glorio's ship, and they blast off with Goku looking so happy and so excited about this brand new adventure, and they disappear, most likely appearing in the Demon World at the start of Episode 3. The end credits roll, and we get to see all these different images of what looks like to be our main cast once everybody gets down there, including 2 new characters we haven't been introduced to yet. And I can't help but wonder because one of the new characters is a small demon girl, But considering that the wish that was made to Shenron was about making everybody who fought Majin Buu into a kid again, I can't help but wonder if maybe this little girl isn't a little girl, just like the rest of our cast isn't actually a bunch of little kids. It would be a really interesting twist to have this be a character who actually has fought Majin Buu in the past. Maybe she's crossed paths with Babidi at one point. That's the thing about Dragon Ball, is that the possibilities are limitless in terms of things that Toriyama could pull out of the past and make relevant again. He's very good at that. I'm thinking we're probably going to get our first real taste of action in the next episode because, yes, there was a little bit of fighting in the first episode, but there really wasn't hardly any action in episode 2. This is still Dragon Ball, so there's going to need to be some punching and kicking and kamehamehaing, so I think we're going to see that in episode 3. What did you guys think? Do you think that this episode was a bit of a drag, or did all of the new information that was revealed keep you entertained and interested? That's all I got for you guys this time. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Or if you want to support the channel in a different way, you can donate over on my Ko-fi page or become a member of the channel. Now, I'm gonna go make sure that Goku has properly cleaned the Nyoibo, because you just know that Roshi's used it as a toilet plunger at least once.